Now we're on to the final section of the show titled Introspective Questions. Who do you believe has had the greatest impact on you and the person and scholar you have become today?
That's a good question, and I think it was actually my mother in many ways. And then my mother, I'm very much like her. My mother was enjoyed. She gave papers in church. She read papers in church. She enjoyed performing. She liked to dress well. So do I. I like clothes. So did my mother. I even look like my mother. By the way, my mother lived until 92, so I hope I will model that after my mother. So I think my mother had a very powerful influence. She read papers in church. I became her ghostwriter. I wrote her. She sold Avon. I was her chauffeur and her bookkeeper, and we used to walk long miles together to the field. I was the youngest child, so we were in the field a lot together. So I think she had the greatest influence. Several of the people I'd like to mention. My oldest brother, also kind of mentored me. He was the one that helped me go to college because I didn't have any money to go to college. I'd wanted to go to college in the South, but he was in Chicago, so I migrated to Chicago. And also my older sister, I have two sisters. She was a model because she used to read a lot, and so she had a profound effect. And next, my black teachers in the South, who really were really very powerful. Miss Jones, Miss Clay, and these were teachers who had a great deal of faith in us, and who taught us to be Americans in black. We, for example, sang the Star-Spangled Banner, but we also sang the Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing every morning. And these were teachers, and I was so moved when I gave a keynote address in Little Rock, Arkansas, and two of my teachers from Mariana drove up to see me. I was very touched. So when I think about my black teachers in segregated South, they were a powerful influence, and I think of them very fondly.
And they saw you too as becoming a professor even at a young age.
You know, I'm not. They saw me as academic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure they thought I would become a professor, but they thought I'd be successful.
Sure.
Yeah.
What inspires you?
Well, I think, as I said before, I think it's the unresolved issues about race, about inequality, about poverty. That inspires me to keep going and to inspire the next generation. My PhD students, I'm very committed to. Tyrone Howard, one of my students, very successful at UCLA. My students, the unfinished agenda about equity is the most important inspiration.
What do you find uninspiring?
What do I find Well, many of the conservative forces, in our society, the attack on immigrants, the attack on gay people, those things I find depressing and troubling. Inequality, because I grew up in the South black, I'm so sensitive to inequality. And I think that's why I'm so sensitive to gay rights and rights of people who are poor. I grew up on a farm. We weren't rich by any means, but we had, food and all of that. But we also had to struggle. And so I'm very sensitive to people who don't have all the advantages in society. And I think that's part of my biography, because I'm very committed to those who need to be included, who are not. And I'm very sensitive to that.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, my favorite word, I suppose, is the whole notion of freedom.
Freedom.
Freedom, yeah. And possibilities. Freedoms and possibilities.
What is your favorite curse word?
I suppose damn.
What profession other than your own would you have liked to attempt?
I think it would have been interesting to be a politician who could bring about change. I think I'm not sure I would have been a very good politician because I'm very honest and open. But My older daughter is a lawyer. I'm not sure I would have enjoyed it, but I just think teaching is what I was meant to be.
Sure.
Yeah.
What profession other than your own would you have not liked to attempt?
Oh, I think, I think the medical profession, because I don't think that they're more restricted. Whereas I think in my work it's more, you have more degrees of freedom.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I have a nephew who's a doctor, and I don't get the feeling that they have as many zones of possibility in their day-to-day work.
Sure. Which goes back to freedom.
Yes.
What is your favorite movie?
Oh, it depends on when you ask. Right now it's 12 Years a Slave.
Oh,
So I think, because I think 12 Years a Slave, in so many ways, bring together so much of what I stand for: the struggle for freedom, what happens when you don't have freedom, and the possibilities of freedom. So I think my favorite movie would I think vary over time. But right now it's 12 Years a Slave.
I hear you. Favorite book?
Yeah, I think it's when my favorite book would vary. The most recent book I read was Americana by Adichie, but it was certainly an interesting book. It was about a Nigerian a novelist, Nigerian American. But I suppose my very favorite writer is James Baldwin, and his essays that I read, and one of my favorite essays by him is A Talk to Teachers, and he's collected his essays in a book called The Price of the Ticket. So in many ways, that would probably be my favorite book.
Okay. If you could tell President Obama one thing, what would it be?
Rethink your policies in education, but keep a strong emphasis on education. I think that we need to rethink what education is about, and we need to rethink the notion of tests and teachers, and so I think we need to rethink all of those things about the relationship between testing and teaching, and we need to really rethink those policies.
Okay. If you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, well, it would probably be James Baldwin and W.B. Du Bois.
Sure.
I think that would those are two of my heroes, and of course John Hope Franklin, the historian. I'd like to have him come too.
Yes, a dinner party.
Yeah.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did your best.
Finally, what advice might you offer to graduate students and beginning researchers who hope to make contributions like you to educational research?
I'd say choose an area of research of which you're passionate and stay the course. Do not be distracted by funding or popularity. Stay the course and stay committed to your beliefs. Believe strongly, stay focused, and stay the course.
Okay. When asked to capture the essence and nature of Dr. James Banks, your wife Cherry explains that many of the characteristics that you exhibit today are characteristics that you exhibited as a child. She notes that you once built a bookcase and then ordered books to fill it. You loved to read and were called a professor, as you mentioned, by many adults. She adds that your skills as a writer surfaced early, explaining that you even became a ghostwriter, writing speeches for your mother, who was known for public speaking in the community. Your daughter Angela explains that you were always there for when she was growing up. Although she notes that you are a self-professed workaholic, family is always a priority for you. She recalls that you read to her and her sister every night growing up. You would review papers for school. You would explain complicated math concepts, and perhaps most importantly, you would provide common sense advice. She cannot remember you missing a band concert, dance performance, science fair, or any other event in which she participated. She describes you as a living demonstration of the values that she holds most dear. Your daughter Patricia describes you as hardworking, brilliant, pragmatic, optimistic, and kind. She explains that your relationship with her is grounded in a deep love of learning, and that as a family of professors, intellectual life is often at the center of family conversations and interactions. Your friend and colleague, Dr. Diana Axelson, described the opportunity to work with you as an honor. She's very grateful to have you as a cherished friend. Dr. Carlos Cortez characterizes you as a thoughtful, incredibly analytical guy who is constantly expanding his intellectual boundaries while simultaneously maintaining a deep commitment to the quest for social justice. He has never met anyone else in your league. Dr. Margaret Crocco explains that you have very high standards, which you apply as much to scholarship as to the choice of wine at dinner. You are a visionary thinker, wonderful teacher, and skillful leader. She speaks for many in saying that your work has enriched education immeasurably. Brian Ellerbach describes you as a true visionary, a scholar of first rank whose insights have fundamentally reshaped our understanding of education and citizenship in a global context. You have given definition and purpose to the conduct of education in a democracy. Dr. Zeus Leonardo, you have a lot of friends, explains that over the years, his interactions with you confirm his initial impression that you possess something of a black Southern gentleman's ways, at once gallant and charming. He respects your professionalism through your actions as you mentor through modeling. Dr. Sonia Nieto explains that you are always quick to correct people who call you the father of multicultural education, reminding them that many people have helped shape the field. She adds that you are right, of course, but you have a very special place among them because your focus has not been in making a name for yourself, but rather on developing the field, making certain it has credibility and integrity and it is taken seriously. Dr. Ellen Schoenfeld describes you as a true gentleman who is passionately committed to a set of ethical values, but also a man who works his way with quiet patience and determination and a generous human spirit. And finally, Dr. Carlos Diaz describes you as a brilliant and highly self-motivated person who is very humble at heart, who in spite of his many accomplishments knows deep down that none of us got to where we are by ourselves because we stand on the shoulders of giants. Carlos Diaz captured the sentiment of many whom we talked to when also describing all of your accomplishments, suspecting that if you had been an actor, in addition to a number of Academy and Golden Globe awards, you would have won a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Academy. You certainly deserve one from academia, as you are the single most influential scholar in the field of multicultural education in the world. If anyone deserves the label of the father or mother of modern U.S. multicultural education, that person has to be you. On behalf of all of us, educators, scholars, future educationists, educational researchers, and the like, we thank you, Dr. James Banks, for everything you do and most importantly for being you. Consider this perhaps as your Lifetime Achievement Award from inside the Academy.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It has been. Thank you.